Hi, welcome to Art Talk. I'm your host, Andy Jones. Today, as you can tell by my shirt, we are going to be celebrating all things Steel Magnolias and the 1989 hit movie of the same name. So we are going to be awash in blush and bashful. I've been teaching people to paint for 44 years, and if you have any interest in painting, I can show you how to do that. So in today's lesson, we are going to be creating a Valentine, and of course it will be blush and bashful. So we're going to be painting some roses on a piece of Japanese paper, and I think you'll find this a really fun way to do this. But I tell you what, I am not alone here in our studio. I'm joined by Dylan Estes, who is handling the camera work. So welcome to Chicopee Parish.
It's such a nice place to be. I can't wait to see Truey Salon.
Well, it's, she's got two now. She's a chain.
Yeah,
We are going to get started on our Valentine card here. And we're going to be painting a couple of roses. And because Shelby's colors for her wedding were blush and bashful, we're going to make a couple of colors using our folk art acrylics. So I'm going to start with some titanium white.
Yeah, Andy and I did our homework last night. We caught up. We had both seen it in passing before, but we caught up on our favorite. And this idea was actually Jesse's in the content studio, and we thought it was a great idea.
Absolutely.
Especially for Valentine's Day, because the movie opens with a beautiful wedding.
It does, and as we all know that Shelby's two favorite colors were blush and bashful. Of course, her mother just said they were
Pink and pink.
But as Shelby let us all know, she selected two different shades of pink, and one was much deeper than the other. So we are now going to make a couple of pink colors to paint our roses with. So we're going to start with a very, very light pink that's going to be a mixture of titanium white and a little bit of apple red. And all of these colors that I'm using today are in a beautifully curated kit for you, and the link to the kit is in the description below. When we're finished with this, I'll have a design that you can download as well. We'll have that link in the description as well. So we've got one light color here, and let's make another light pink color, but a different light pink. So again, we'll start with titanium white, and we'll mix a little bit of true burgundy into this, which will give us a different shade of pink.
Bashful, if you will.
Yes, anything to make Shelby happy on her day. So here we have blush and we have bashful. So those are going to be our light colors for our rose that we are going to paint today. And we're going to take a very casual approach to this, but Dylan, I think I'm fading. Do you have a cookie?
Juice is better.
Juice is always better, so we should drink our juice. Have some juice, Dylan.
Thank you.
And I'll have a little juice myself.
We wouldn't want to be shaky for the painting.
No, absolutely not. So,
do a little cheers. Tastes like summer camp.
Well, it tastes like something. All right, so we are now juiced up and ready to go. So I'm going to take one of my Folk Art Select Firm Bristle brushes, and this is a number 12 flat, and I'm going to pick up some apple red just on one corner of the brush and blend that into my palette. And then I'm going to stroke into some of my blush all the way across the brush, so that now part of it is a darker pink and our very light pink. We just want to make sure that we have a gradation of color across our brush from dark to light. And this is a very important technique to learn. And so we're going to spend a little time making sure that our brush is absolutely loaded the way it should be. And we're just going to start painting a little rose on here. So you could see that the color's almost the exact same color as the paper, which is nice. And we're just making sure that we've got plenty of paint in our brush. And we're starting to paint with a little scallop stroke. And we'll fill our brush with a little more paint. And we'll make a little less scallop stroke, but one that ends with a little tail on it. And so, Dylan, after re-watching Steel Magnolias, what was your takeaway?
Honestly, it's an amazing film. It's an amazing film. One of the big takeaways was I didn't realize that Sally Field was not Sally Fields. So we got through that right in the title sequence. Forgot about that. And I mean, it's a great movie and Dolly is a great actress in it. I mean,
all the characters were super well developed.
Yeah.
You got to know who they were very, very quickly. And you and I are both raised in the South, so we all know those ladies.
My grandmother was a Steel Magnolia. It's just these hardened women that can handle anything. And
they certainly can, because we know Ruth Roebeline had enough trouble in her lifetime. All right, so we've got 3 strokes starting the back of our rose, and now in between we're going to just put a few more scallop strokes, and notice that this one does also end in a tail.
We were talking earlier about how many times we cried and at which points in the movies we cried. And I said mine 2 times were when Shelby goes into the hospital at the end, and then at the funeral scene at the very end when Sally Field kind of loses it.
Well, mine was when little Jack Jr. is sitting on the floor crying, because you already know what's happened. And that was just, seeing that little child there cry was just a little much for me. But we made it through because Dylan and I are our own Steel Magnolias. So we did make it through. All right, so if you've noticed, I've been picking up a little bit more white on my brush. Still have that nice gradation on the palette. And I made sort of a loose U-shaped stroke that connected my second row of petals. Now I'm going to connect the first row of petals with a couple of strokes that are just going to come right around like that. So nothing difficult there. Now let's go back and pick up some of our darker pink and some of our apple red. And let's just start putting on some very loosely painted petals on our rose. And you don't have to worry about a specific number of petals or where they're actually lining up. And please don't worry about the outside edge. If it's a little bit ragged, that's perfectly fine. You want these roses to be very, very casual.
So as we're going along here, Andy, I've got some rapid fire questions to put you on the spot.
You do love a rapid fire question.
That's how we started this whole series.
I always feel like I'm gearing up for the bonus round.
But if you know Andy remembers these things, so this is no sweat for him.
Okay.
Okay, so during which this first of all, this series or this movie is very holiday centric. Like it takes place at many different holidays.
Many different holidays, yes, indeed.
And that's how they kind of like show the passage of time.
Exactly.
So, what is the first holiday that we are introduced to aside from the wedding?
Easter.
Easter is correct.
Because we have the trunk full of Easter eggs that Weezer causes them to crash onto the trunk of the car and smash them. Which I have to say, it doesn't look like any of those eggs were hard boiled.
No, it
all
was kind of a
like
mix.
Tater was just dying raw eggs. I'm sure Trivy did not give him all the information. All right, so I'm just starting to put on stacking up some more petals here. All right, so what else was I supposed to remember?
What did Shelby's brothers try to decorate her car with?
Oh.
And succeed, actually, not just try.
With rubbers.
Rubbers.
That was tacky.
Where does Annelle say she was from? This might be a deep cut.
Oh. Well, all I know is that she was living across the river in Miss Roebeline's boarding house, but I don't know where she came from.
She said Zawali, which I just thought was interesting. They built her a little bit of a backstory.
Well, you know, if you can achieve puberty, you can achieve a backstory.
Correct.
Or
a past. What does Truvy serve her cake with to cut the sweetness? This is a big Andy question.
Ice cream. Of course. Who wouldn't serve their cuppa cake with some ice cream? All right, go on, Dylan.
We kind of already answered this one, but what is Truvy dying at the beginning of the movie? It's Easter eggs.
It's Easter eggs, yes, indeed.
What shape is Jackson's groom cake?
Well, we all know it's in the shape of an armadillo with gray icing on it. All right, so back to our painting for just a moment. we know that you love some steel magnolias, but I'm going to wipe my brush off and we're going to put some color down in the very center of the rose. So I'm going to use the corner of the brush that I've had my apple red on and pick up a little more apple red. And I'm also going to sneak the brush into a little true burgundy. So I've got just a slightly darker color on one side of the brush and just where I wipe the paint off on the other side. So we're going to come in here and we're just going to pat, tap, tap, dab, dab a little dark color right down in the very center of our rose. And folks, we're really close to being done with our rose number 1. So I'm going to pick up a little bit more white just on the corner of the brush, soften it here on the palette. You're almost always going to do a little more work on your palette than you do on your actual painting. But I'm going to put a little bit more of a petal right across the front of the rose here. But one thing that we haven't really discussed that I think is really the central portion of the Steel Magnolias movies is, of course, Weezer's Saint Bernard.
Andy's favorite part of the movie.
Yes, well, I am a
The patchy-haired Saint Bernard.
Well, that poor dog was just tortured. But, you know, if a movie has a Saint Bernard in it, then it is a Saint Bernard movie. Because everybody knows The Devil Wears Prada is a Saint Bernard movie. But I thought it was so funny that Weezer had such a big dog that she was unable to manage. See that I'm just sanding the brush up on its edge and just adding some little petals that will just look like the very edges of the petal that you just see. It's not a whole petal, but we just tap, tap, tap some of these little petals on there, and it really does make the rose look much softer. So we're going to put just a couple of little suggestions of flower petals down here in the center of the rose. We're not going to worry about them too much. I always say that we're not going to worry about things too much, and I really do want you to kind of be in the habit of just enjoying painting and not fretting over it. It's not anything to be all concerned about. All right, so we've done one rose. I'm going to turn the card over and I'm going to do another rose going the other direction. And we're going to do this in Bashful. So again, you could see the brush has a light side and a dark side, and we're just going to carry that right on through. So let's stroke into our Bashful mixture of pink. And then this time let's pick up a little true burgundy. So our roses are going to be kind of two different colors. I'm going to just lightly kind of tap and pat on a little bit of dark color right underneath that first rose. So we already know that our second rose has got some dark shadowing going on there. Spending quite a bit of time getting everything on my brush just ready to go. And I'm going to start at what's going to be the back edge of the rose with a kind of a scallop stroke. And then we'll bring that around and start forming the kind of the center portion of our rose there. And always make sure that you're paying attention to what you're doing on your palette. Even if you are watching Steel Magnolias in the background, you have to pay attention to what you're doing. All right, so over on this side, we're just going to tap and pat a little bit of a comma-shaped stroke on there. Now, let's make sure that we've got some more Bashful on one side of the brush. And we're going to drop down and we're going to layer a second layer of petals on here. Just kind of stroking that on. All right, so I'm going to ask Dylan to come in really close because I want to point out something to you that will be very, very helpful. All right, so it looks like there's 1, 2, 3, 4 little tails down into the center of our rose. So with my brush with Bashful heavily loaded on one side of the brush, or one half of the brush, I'm going to connect this inside tail here to the inside tail over there, and it's just kind of forming a U-shaped stroke. All right, that wasn't difficult. I know he's tight in here again. I'm picking up a little white with my Bashful because I want this to be a little bit lighter. And then we'll start kind of in the center here, and we'll just connect up to that first little scallop stroke that we started with, and we'll do the same thing over on this side, and we just connect it right up there. So that's the most difficult part of anything, or just kind of making those little connections there. And now we're going to load our brush again with the True Burgundy and our Bashful, and we're going to start to form the outside petals of this rose, and we're going to let them just kind of fade right in underneath the rose that we've already painted. All right, so we're going to put in some petals over here on this side of the rose. And you could see how we've got a shadow going underneath this top rose on the little lower rose. And I'm going to pick up some Bashful, and we're going to lay in some additional foreshortened petals.
As you're putting those in, so a few more questions here.
Okay.
What part of the cake, of the armadillo cake, does Weezer give to Shelby's father? She cuts a piece, hacks it off, and brings it over to him.
Is it the tail?
It's the tail.
Of course it is red velvet cake, so it looks like an autopsy. And I thought it was very funny that Jackson's aunt, I think her name was Aunt Fran, when she was quizzed about making other animal shapes, apparently the only shape she couldn't make was a snake because she didn't have the counter space. I thought that was classic. And I am sure that plenty of weddings have had armadillo-shaped groom's cakes, all in honor of steel magnolias.
Now this one's close to home. What does Truvy refer to as the house wine of the South? What drink is
Sweet tea.
To? Of course.
Which, of course, I could, it's what I have all the time. Love that. And, of course, Truvy is she's quite the entrepreneur, running her beauty salon. All right, so now we've got enough of these little, kind of the edges of these petals showing. So let's go back and we'll fill in the center of our flower. Once again, I've wiped out the excess paint out of my brush, and I'm going to pick up some True Burgundy. And we're going to add some dark color right down in the middle of this rose. And I'm going to wipe the excess color out of my brush. And we are going to add some Bashful onto one half of the brush. And just like we did up here on this rose, we're going to add a few little fluffy petals to signify the center of the rose. And again, we are not going to fret over this because you don't need to. Anybody who's looking at their Valentine card that you painted is going to know that these are roses, and they don't need any more information than that. I'd like to take a minute to thank Plaid Enterprises for sponsoring Art Talk. They are the makers of folk art acrylics, which I absolutely love using. I've used this paint since I was a young tot, and now that I'm an old fart, I still use this paint. We have a 17-piece set that we've curated just for you. Ordering information is in the description below, and we also have great brushes for you. We have a 7-piece set of Folk Art Select Firm Bristle brushes. These are absolutely incredible. I use them every time I paint. And I've never done that in my entire life. Now, let's get back to our video. Now, let's shift from our roses to a couple of leaves. So I'm going to put out a little thicket. And I'm going to put out a little lime green. And a little lemon yellow. And I'm going to make a little bit softer green with some lemon yellow, lime green, and a little bit of titanium white. Dylan, I've got a question for you now. Do you know why people were nice to Weezer?
She had money?
How much money did she have?
I don't remember.
She had more money than God.
Oh, right, okay.
So that's the reason that people were nice to her. You gotta love that kind of sentiment.
Clary and Weezer with their dueling wealth.
Yes. I think Clary was a little more likable when she talked about it. Anne Boleyn's 11 fingers. Okay, let's paint a leaf. Right, so I'm just picking up some thicket, and we are going to very quickly paint a few leaves. So I'm going to just use the corner of my brush and go right around my rose. Use the corner of my brush and scribble a leaf shape. Then I'm going to wipe out my brush, and I'm going to take some of my lime green and lemon yellow mixture, and I'm going to dab some of that on at the outside edge of the leaf, softening it in just a little tiny bit. We'll make a leaf vein, and then I'll take some of the lighter green mixture and highlight on one side of that. Wipe the excess paint off on my paper towel, and we'll soften that in just a quick little bit. And we're done with that leaf. We're ready to do another one. Okay, so we're going to do another little leaf really quick. We're going to use the corner of our brush and just put some dark color right around our rose, and then use the corner of the brush to kind of scribble on a simple leaf shape. And I just realized there that I'd put some thorns, or really a kind of a serrated edge on that leaf. And while rose leaves do have some thorns and actually do have a serrated edge, you don't want to paint that because it'll make the rose leaf just look evil. All right, so we've got our dark color on our rose leaf, and now we are going to wipe the brush. We're going to take some of our lemon yellow and lime green mix, and we're going to dab some of that on this edge of the leaf, and then wipe our brush, soften that in, take some of our lighter mixture, create a leaf vein using the chisel edge of the brush, and then we're going to tap some of that color on, wipe our brush, and soften that in. And I'm not spending a lot of time on these leaves, as you can tell. Now, let me show you another little simple thing that you can do. You can take the chisel edge of your brush, and if you want to, you could add some little stems. I'm just going to take the brush and just kind of tap a little stem on just like that. And then I'll move up here, and we'll make another one that kind of crosses. So we add those little stems up there, and we'll do the same thing down here. We'll start using the chisel edge of our brush and just kind of tap that on. This way, you're not really having to use a liner brush and work on that particular skill. You can simply use the edge of your flat brush, tap that on, and you can get some beautiful fine lines there. And then we'll tuck that up into that leaf there and there, just like that. So now you've got a lovely little Valentine card. Okay.
The last question. It's not exactly, a hard one, but it's kind of a good ending to the movie that they spend a lot of time on, so I figure we should spend some time on it.
Okay.
So how does Annelle's husband, the Easter Bunny, leave the Easter egg hunt to go chase after his pregnant wife?
Of course.
It's a long scene.
Yes. So, of course, as Truvy and Weezers tell Annelle that women have babies every day, and so they go tell the kids to find they tell Shelby's brothers to go find the Easter Bunny. Mm-hmm. And that is Shelby's husband, and he has to jump on the back of Truvy and Tater's son's motorcycle and to follow Truvy, Tater, and Annelle to the hospital. So that's kind of how that is.
It's a good ending.
It is a good ending of the movie, because it's not every day that you see the Easter Bunny riding on the back of a motorcycle. We are coming to the end of today's Blush and Bashful lesson, and no good Blush and Bashful Valentine card is not complete without the best sentiment from the entire Steel Magnolia movie. So Clary wants you to know that she loves you more than she loves luggage. So thanks for joining us today. I want to remind you that the link to the set of paint, the brushes, and the free downloadable pattern are in the description box. Be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can be notified of upcoming new videos. And please be sure to tell your friends so that they can enjoy the videos too.